Hi everybody, it's Scott. How are you? I wanted to give you a look at my saxophones, particularly the older saxophones, these antique saxophones that I recently got, and compare them to the modern saxophone and let you hear what a 140-year-old saxophone sounds like. So let's start with my saxophone, modern saxophone. All of the saxophones, alto, soprano, tenor, baritone, all the different sizes are an invention by Adolph Sax back in the mid-1840s. He was trying to improve the sound of the bass clarinet, and he was inspired to create an instrument that would blend with the brass and with the strings and had some projection to it. Some instruments are beautiful, like the bassoon and the oboe, but they don't project. And the brass instruments do project, but they can be hard to play fast passages, controlling a lot of the notes with the lips and 3 valves, typically. So with a lot of keys and a woodwind setup in a brass instrument was his solution, and it was a brilliant, brilliant invention. The actual design hasn't changed all that much, as we'll see. This old saxophone is not one of Sax's originals. This is by one of his contemporaries, but follows his design very, very closely. And in the time between Sax's original design and the modern saxophone, we've gotten things like the automatic octave key, so we only have 1 instead of 2. A lot of extra keys on the side to help us play notes that would ordinarily otherwise require some flipping of fingers, and it just makes it easier to play those notes. And of course we've extended the bell by 1/2, by a semitone, instead of going from B, as these do, to B flat, so you can see that the bell is a little bit longer. The sound is about the same. The design of the mouthpiece and reeds and all that are about the same. Let me give you a little idea of what this sounds like. I think this is an old reed. It's not really supporting the pitch, so if I'm a little flat, forgive me. A little bit of Shenandoah. So you can see how it projects, but I have the, I could play faster notes in a different song. So let's look at my baby. This is from about 1877, not long after Sax's original patent expired. It differs from his original design only really that there are these lovely pearls, we call them, whereas Sax in his original design had metal buttons, and you'll see those on this one, although they're there for a different reason. This one looks lighter, it feels lighter, only has 1 tone hole on the bell because it only goes down to B. You'll notice this is shorter. Modern saxophones now are B flat, and they are so much longer. It's missing a little key here that helps us play the F sharp, so you have to play it only one way, middle finger. And it's missing a little button here, which would allow us to play B flat with 1 finger, so we have to play it with 1 and 1, or 2 plus the side key. It does have a side key, has a side C. Interestingly, it has 2 octave keys, 1 for G and down to D, and 1 for A and above. So if you're playing through that area, through that range of the horn, you have to also switch octave keys. A little tricky. I'm not sure I've mastered that. I haven't played this that many times, although I'm glad to say that this has recently been completely refurbished, cleaned, and polished, and all the pads replaced and adjusted by my technician. And let's see what it sounds like. We'll try a little of the same thing. Let's see, let me figure out which octave key is which. It's that one. register plays kind of sweetly. The B that I'm playing is off by quite a bit. Did you see me reach for that key that wasn't there? You get used to those modern conveniences. So this, you notice the sound doesn't sound much different, and there's a lot of talk amongst saxophonists about, you know, what instrument do you play, and is the Mark VI, the Silver Mark VI, the best saxophone that was ever made. And a lot of people are coming to the conclusion that the mouthpiece and the reed that you choose do make some difference. The instrument, of course, has to be built to be in tune and to be durable, but most of it comes from here. So, unfortunately, if I sound crummy, it's kind of me. But that the instrument doesn't itself make a huge difference in the way the instrument sounds. They're all basically the same design, and it's what you do with it, as they say. I just have fallen in love with this because it's so old, because it's in such good condition. It's kind of elegant, it's kind of different looking because the bell is short, and it has this lovely inscription on it. Back when saxophones were embossed with the information, the maker and the year, well, not the year in this case, and the award that the maker had won at a World's Fair. Anyway, it's quite interesting, quite pretty to look at, quite unusual. Speaking of unusual, this I just got, and you will notice, even if you're not a saxophone player, it's shaped differently. The bell points straight up, and I've been able to find precious little about this instrument, except that it was a redesign, and I knew that because there are tone holes missing, and the bell is shaped differently. It's just, it was one, and I forget his name now, it was one man's attempt to redesign the saxophone, partly to make it cheaper to manufacture. You can imagine trying to make a bell like this on a mandrel. Much easier to make something that's symmetrical than to try to make this piece that bends out. So it dates back probably to the 1920s. It also has a double octave key. It only has 2 side keys, not 3. It does not have that F sharp, does not have the B flat. And you'll notice here I mentioned it has metal finger touches like the original sax, and I think in this case it was to save money, since this was to be an inexpensive instrument to produce. So let's listen to it. On this particular instrument, the cork has worn down, so I've wrapped a little paper here to make a seal. And although this has not been worked on by a technician, and there are many things wrong with it, some of these keys don't even have springs that are working, we'll see what kind of sound we can get out of this. Let's see if I can get the lower register to speak. It was doing that before. Now this one also, the neck is attached to the instrument. It does not come off, so that's someplace I normally check for leaks. That's not the case, because there's no leak there. Hey, it sounds like a saxophone. Once again, get the right air column vibrating, made of brass, with the right mouthpiece, it's going to sound like a saxophone. Well, I wish I could give you more notes on this, but with this leaking, it's only going to play in the upper register unless I hold it. Anyway, so this is it says Universel Savana, Paris. It's numbered 692. I think that's the serial number. And I like this because it's so different looking. The bell obviously throws me for a loop. It reminds me of the pictures people draw of saxophones who don't know what a saxophone really looks like. They know it's bent and it has a bell, but they don't always realize that it faces forward, so it looks like a bad drawing of a saxophone. So anyway, that is the sound and the sights of my little alto saxophone collection. I have one other one. It's the one I grew up on. It's a con. Of course, it looks just like this because it's also a modern saxophone. So I hope you enjoyed that. Leave comments, subscribe, whatever you do on YouTube, and tell my Facebook friends hello, and stay in touch. Thanks.